What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including WWE's plans for when Vince McMahon can't run the company, tragic news involving Randy Orton and his family, WWE removes Batista from the Hall of Fame, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Now, sadly, we begin today's video with some unfortunate news as it relates to the passing of Randall Barry Orton. Randall was the uncle of WWE superstar Randy Orton, and he spent a period of time in the WWF in the 80s as well as the early 90s. He wrestled under names Barry Orton, Barry O, and Masked Zodiac. While he never reached the wrestling heights of his young nephew Randy Orton, he was a very solid and talented performer. We'd like to offer our condolences to the Orton family during this difficult time. Next up, WWE's plans for when Vince McMahon can't run the company. Although WWE Chairman Vince McMahon is 75 years old, he runs every aspect of WWE and has done so for almost all of his adult life. Fans have often wondered what is going to happen when Vince decides he can't run WWE anymore, or on the morbid side of things, he unfortunately passes away. Well, Stephanie McMahon recently spoke to Bloomberg Business of Sports, and she revealed that when her father is unable to do his job, then it will likely be a group effort to replace his role rather than one individual person. Stephanie stated, "I do think a lot of the institutional knowledge is important, particularly with regards to the core content, but it's also surrounding our business with strong, smart executives, and that's exactly what we have. So I do think it's a marriage of institutional knowledge, the incredible production value, the creation of talent IP and storylines, and really strong business executives to help us expand. I think it's a combination of things." She continued on and said, "I don't think there will be ever a person-to-person replacement for Vince McMahon. He does too much. The landscape would look different however it shakes out, but I think it's a marriage of those things. There will never be a true replacement for Vince McMahon, but who in your opinion would be able to step up to the plate and run WWE in his place? Triple H, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, maybe none of the McMahon family? Let us know in the comments down below." Next up, WWE removes Batista from the Hall of Fame. As we reported yesterday, the current news is that Batista isn't scheduled to appear at the Hall of Fame ceremony this year, and this report can now be supported by the fact that he's no longer listed as a 2020 inductee on WWE's official website. If you try and access the page, you will be met with an access denied message. It's also interesting to note that the Hall of Fame logo doesn't appear on Batista's profile, but it does remain on others such as the NWO or JBL. Now, it's unclear what's going on in relation to Batista and the Hall of Fame, but it appears as if they're waiting to induct Batista when he can actually appear in person to accept his induction. We theorize that there's some problem with his schedule due to Hollywood commitments, something that he didn't have last year but obviously has now this year. As far as we know, Batista and WWE should be on good terms. Next up, Charlotte Flair is removed from the WrestleMania 37 poster. The WrestleMania 37 poster was released earlier this week, and the superstars you would expect to feature on the poster were present. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Sasha Banks, Edge, Bianca Belair, Bad Bunny even, and Charlotte Flair were all front and center. However, this weekend, WWE released an updated poster, and it was the exact same poster with one exception. Charlotte Flair had been completely removed. Charlotte is rumored to be facing Asuka for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania 37 in 3 weeks, so her removal from the pay-per-view poster could be indication that plans have changed. We doubt this has anything to do with her fiancé Andrade's position in the WWE, and maybe simply a case of not spoiling things later on, as putting on the poster may mean that she has quite a significant role at WrestleMania. Next up, WWE ready to break up Retribution? Retribution member T-Bar has hinted that something big is going to go down at tonight's Fastlane pay-per-view, and it could be the breakup of the Retribution stable. This comes after weeks of WWE showing signs of dissension between the group, and T-Bar has changed his Twitter name to Don't Blink, and he's replaced his profile picture with an image of his eyes. Additionally, his Twitter bio now simply says one word, Sunday, which is no doubt a direct reference to tonight's pay-per-view. T-Bar has also unfollowed everyone in the account with the exception of fellow Retribution member Mace. Retribution leader Mustafa Ali faces Riddle for the US title tonight at Fastlane, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Will he cost Mustafa Ali the title, effectively breaking up the stable for good? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, Sasha Banks' heel turn planned. Sasha Banks is set to defend her SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania in 3 weeks against Royal Rumble winner Bianca Belair. Now, although the match is rumored to main event WrestleMania, there has been some criticism from fans in relation to how poor the build to the match has been. According to Dave Meltzer, the feud is likely going to be taken to the next level as Sasha is going to be positioned as the heel in the feud. He mentioned Sasha did a heel promo on Talking Smack, so she's going in there as a heel, in which she's making sure she's the heel and making sure Bianca's the babyface. Now, Banks is scheduled to team with her WrestleMania opponent Belair tonight on Fastlane, as the duo will compete for the women's tag team titles in a match against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. As it stands, both teams are not on the same page. Next up, Melina Reveals Cancelled storyline plan. Melina was one of the most successful women's wrestlers in WWE history. She would win a total of 5 women's championships during her time in the company, as well as being part of the memorable M&M tag team. What many fans don't know is that the WWE planned a truly bizarre storyline with Melina, and it involved WWE Chairman Vince McMahon. During a recent interview with It's Samira, Melina would reveal that there were initial plans for her to have Vince McMahon's baby during the Ruthless Aggression era. Obviously, these plans were cancelled, but if this had actually taken place, it could have been one of the most controversial storylines in WWE history. Vince gets around, doesn't he? Next up, the origins of the RKO revealed. Randy Orton appeared on the Stone Cold Steve Austin's Broken Skull sessions this weekend, and one of the things the two legends discussed was the RKO. Austin was curious as to how Orton began to use the RKO and how it became so popular. Orton would reveal, as far as the move goes, of course there was the Diamond Cutter and of course there was the Ace Crusher. So Laurinaitis and me, Laurinaitis had my back. I was trying this move off the shoulder. I believe it was called the Overdrive. It was hurting my shoulder a little bit, which had already been fixed up. And then Laurinaitis said, "Hey man, do the Ace Crusher." I said, "Okay, I'll change it up a little bit." Holy shit. Thank you, Johnny, because now I got this thing and I can hit anybody with it from anywhere. There's no setup, no nothing, just boom, and it just happens. Orton would go on to discuss the first time he would use the RKO all the way back in 2003 and revealed, as far as the RKO, the first night I was doing it on television, it might have been against the Hurricane Helms, Shane Helms. Vince is walking in the hallway, we need a name for this thing. You know, my name is Randall Keith Orton, like my initials, I came up with like RKO, TKO, KO, 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 KO Vince, what do you think? He just never skipped a beat, kept walking, never changed his stride, and he said it like, I like it. That was it. The next thing you know, it's RKO, RKO. And finally, Chris Jericho shares a funny story about Vince McMahon sleeping. Last but not least, speaking of Vince McMahon, there are a lot of urban legends surrounding the WWE chairman. Things like not seeing people sneeze as a weakness, and he can survive on barely any sleep. Well, according to wrestling legend Chris Jericho, he once took a picture of Vince sleeping, which apparently made Vince absolutely furious. Jericho would share this story on an episode of his Talk is Jericho podcast, which just so happened to feature former WWE star The Big Show. Jericho stated, "I stayed up on one of those flights one time as long as he did. We were together," Big Show stated. "The entire trip he never closed his eyes. He worked the whole time. He won't sleep. He hates it when people see him sleeping." Jericho revealed, "I took a picture of him sleeping on one of those trips, and I showed it to him and I said, 'You actually do sleep.' He didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He said, 'Delete that now.' And I was like, okay, you crazy man." He didn't find it funny. Man, Vince is a weird man, isn't he? But there you have it, folks. The wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.